Welcome to Backstage with Kennedy. This little show will be your remedy. From Toronto, spanning across the sea. Cool people, lots of laughs. This is your favorite podcast. Yeah.
Hello and welcome. My name is Kennedy from the Backstage with Kennedy show. This is episode 25. Who would have thought we got to 25 already? So I wanted to bring back one of my favorite guests, one of my best friends, DJAYLO from Weigh In MMA. I'm a big fan of supporting my friends in their endeavors, but also supporting my friends in their creative endeavors, which is kind of why I created this podcast. So DJ being one of my best friends and having such a mind for MMA, I said, you know what? We're doing this. So I'm here. We're going to talk a little bit about this upcoming week's MMA fights, last week's MMA fights, and we're also going to talk about what's new on the Weigh In MMA front because he's been keeping busy recently, that's for sure. What's going on, Deej?
Much, man. Thank you very much for having me, man. Just here. Excited to speak to you as always, man. Dig into some MMA news and kind of let the people know what's happening.
Yeah, brother. For all the cool people out there and non-cool people, these pictures were actually DJ's pictures, and he said, "You know what? We're going to invest in the studio. Here you go, brother." So thank you, DJ. Yeah, man. So
Martha Stewart and me, man. I just, it's like to help people out and make their spot look a little bit nicer.
Well, that's why you're the homie, brother. So obviously UFC has been crazy recently with a lot of like venue changes. I mean, we had Fight Island, we have the Apex in Las Vegas. Everything's coming so fast, dude.
Yes.
Tell me, like, what's so exciting about what's going on right now? Like, other than the fact that there's so many venue changes, like what's going on in the MMA world?
The most exciting thing that's going on is that there's no sports on TV, and it's MMA that is on TV. MMA is number one right now, and Dana White would be proud that I'm mentioning that. They're the only one going. He's the one keeping athletes busy, making sure that they're able to perform, get paid, get their name out there. There's been some venue changes, but there's been lots going on, and it's a day-to-day thing, I think. And they went from Jacksonville. We've moved over to Vegas, where they're doing them at the Apex Center now. And what the fans have all been waiting for, Fight Island, which is taking place on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi throughout the month of July.
Yes.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting, man. Like, so
that is very exciting.
Are they gonna have fans in Abu Dhabi or no fans in Abu Dhabi?
No fans in Abu Dhabi.
Huh. Okay.
I think there's gonna be fans for any sport for a very long time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what approach they take to that. Like, what, every other seat, and it's
Yeah. I don't know. Well, good for Dana White, man, for being honestly, like, in my mind, one of the best sports promoters of all time. Like,
yeah, well, this whole team, like the fact that able to manage a company that size with that many athletes and all the moving pieces and keep the athletes safe, the employees safe, and actually put on great fights. And yeah, it's motivating, and hopefully he can help out or the other leagues and organizations get their sports back on the road, like the NBA or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they obviously have something in place where they're able to do it safely.
We're both in media, obviously. Can you imagine the media circuit that guy goes through? I looked into it. He has like 12-hour media days. Like he sits in front of the camera and for 12 hours, and his PR person just keeps going, okay, this is who you're hosting, like this is who you're with. Okay, this is who you're with. And he'll sit on this chair for 12 hours, man.
Yeah. And Dana, although I'm sure he does repeat himself because people ask him the same question, so it's not even really his fault. But
Yeah.
each interview he gives is like very authentic and like genuine. Like you ask him questions, like you're gonna get genuine reactions from him. So like depending what you ask, you know. So his interviews are always interesting, and they never seem repetitive in a way really. He says the same thing over and over many times. Like don't get me wrong, but the interviews themselves are they're always worth watching. So the fact that he can do that many and still give you a quality give you some quality time is great.
As I remember, you asked him a question once, didn't you? In Vegas? Was it Vegas or
Uh,
Toronto?
no, I don't, I've never had the chance to ask Dana White a question yet.
I feel like you asked someone a question. Maybe it wasn't Dana. Maybe it was somebody else. Maybe.
I've had a chance like to have time with like Max Holloway, like when he was defending his belt against Brian Ortega. Same with Valentina Shevchenko, Joanna, a bunch of people.
Donald Cerrone.
Tony Ferguson, Elias Theodoro. See, it's I've been very fortunate to even get close to like people like that. I've said this to people around me all the time and to my friends and just like people I work with and whatnot about UFC is one thing about the athletes and the fighters is they're very approachable and they're very open. You get like insight and into their lives and you get to like know who they are and like their activities. And you get a lot closer to the guys in the UFC than you would in other sports.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So obviously, you're a huge MMA fan. You have knowledge that extends through way further than the average person when it comes to this. So what's new on the Weigh In MMA front? I know for a while there you were just kind of a blog, but like what's going on with you now?
I originally started Weigh In MMA just like to cover what's happening each weekend, like with UFC, Bellator, One Championship, just stuff like that. Um, see a lot of pages, but it's usually just like copy and paste, and there's reposting each other's stuff, or you know, what I mean, just pretty much like taking other posts and just kind of slapping it up. And a lot of the news is just like rumors, stuff like that, and the way that they post it just is very misleading. And as like a huge fan of MMA, you rely on pages like this to find out like little things. And although you do get some pretty good news from these pages, it's just I just feel like there is like room for improvement. So instead of just complaining about it and sitting back, I figured, you know what? I'm very passionate about it. You know, I have my own perspective and like my own look on fights and what takes place in MMA. So I figured I'd start investing time and effort and put it into this, and now I'm gonna get it going. So Weigh In MMA is gonna remain, and it's gonna be like accurate, confirmed news, and you know, just straightforward like MMA stuff. And
Mhm.
I have a segment which is gonna be the podcast. It's gonna be called Interview, kind of playing on the name of interim titles and interim championships. Because in UFC, not only do the fighters not really take them too seriously, even the fans don't take those titles too seriously. And that's the same thing about the podcast. We don't want to take it too seriously because, again, I'm not the fighter. I'm not the one in the cage. At the end of the day, I could pretend I know what's going on, like some other people in the MMA community, but this is it's the whole thing about Weigh In MMA. It's the athletes weigh in, and now the fans get to weigh in as well. So do our part, and the interview, we're gonna have a bunch of different fighters from all different weight divisions. We're gonna have the women, we're gonna have the men, we're gonna have the lightweights, the flyweights, the heavyweights, like you name it, and, legends, active fighters, retired fighters, all sorts of stuff, and we're just gonna pay homage and bring a new, refreshing look to interviews with fighters. We're gonna ask them like real questions. We're going to incorporate the fans, have them call in live during the interview, give them a chance to actually speak to the fighters that they're fans of, and it's something where it's something different that I don't think that people usually have the chance to do. And because UFC fighters are so willing to give their time to fans, it really works out.
I think you're gonna get. I mean, you obviously haven't had an episode, but you're a really good people person, and I feel like it's gonna be a very organic thing for you. And like I think with UFC fighters, as far as I can see, you're right. They are very human, so you're gonna get a very organic interview, no BS. I mean, a lot of the time the guys are a little bit cockier than normal, but that's just that fighter mentality. You know what I mean? You're going up against a guy in the ring. If you don't believe you're going to beat that guy, you're in trouble.
They got that alpha energy.
Amen. I don't have it.
A little bit more along the lines of a beta, I'd say, but
like a beta fish, right?
like a beta, like when you download like some software and it doesn't work too well, and you're like, oh man, this damn beta, it doesn't work.
a little slow sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't always work. What the heck do you even have it for?
Oh my god. Thank you for the laughter, man. All right, so moving on. Yo, DJ, honestly, man, best of luck in this. I think this is going to be really good. When's your first episode?
The first episode is going to air live. I believe it is June 19th, which is a Friday.
There we go.
The guest is to be announced. We're going to keep this on the low.
Okay.
We want the people to tune in and find out. So on Friday, you can expect to go on Instagram. You can see it live. You'll be able to watch it on YouTube. It will be available on iTunes, Spotify, Tidal, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to make sure we get this to the masses and give everybody an opportunity to listen to us kind of shoot the shit, kind of get an understanding for what has happened in the UFC, because we're going to speak about the past events like each Monday, and then we're going to speak about the upcoming events like each Saturday. And we're also going to be giving picks. Something I like to do is bet. Not everyone should, but I'm a betting man. I like to put my money where my mouth is. So not a whole lot of money. But what I can
generally do well. Generally do well.
Hey, play at your own pace. But I'm gonna give everyone some picks, so you can go on free apps where you can earn XP, and you can make your bets that way if you just want to play for fun and kind of do that with your buddies, or you can use my picks if you dare and put some money on them, and or you can use them to reference your own picks, whatever it is. But I'd say we're about we get what 11 out of 12 usually, 10 out of 12 typically.
Yeah, you're generally perfect, if not close to it.
Yeah, it's usually about one fight that's off. Otherwise, we get perfect each and every weekend. So you can pick and choose, but I do parlays. I do the whole card on one parlay. Go big or go home.
Prelims and all.
Yeah, we do some other bets too, but like we're just focused on the parlay there.
All right, brother man, let's talk about some fights. So last week we had UFC 250. I mean, I don't want to dive too far into it, and I don't think you really want to either. I mean, we could talk about every prelim, every single one, but we'd be here for years. and I don't think that's good. I don't think it's good enough. So let's talk a little bit about some of the fights from the weekend. We'll start off with the big one, which was the main final fight, which was Nunez and Felicia Spencer. Let's talk about it. What happened in that?
Yeah, typically we'd start off with another fight, but some of the other fights on the card were just huge. So we'll start with the title fight because it's not a bad place to start. And yeah, let's just touch on Amanda Nunez very quickly before we go through the other ones there. But man, she is a problem. She's probably one of the most dominant champs in any weight class, really. How far ahead she is of her opponents and the other people in that, well, the two weight classes. She's a double champ, defending both titles. It's just it's ridiculous. Felicia Spencer, Canadian, shout out to her. She was up against Amanda last Saturday, and man, very durable. Was able to go the whole fight. A couple of times, I thought Amanda was very close to finishing it, but Felicia was able to power through and, get through the fight. But it shows how good Amanda Nunez is. The number one contender, the closest one to getting that title, is just levels behind. So everyone below that, I feel, is going to have has a long way to go before they're going to be able to beat Amanda Nunez, and she's going to be a champ as long as she wants to, I think, until something like age defeats her or something catastrophic. But she's just very determined. Even with all the success she's had, she never loses sight of like what she wants, and she seems to be hungry and seems to be performing that way. So
yeah, I was sitting with Maddie. Matt and I were watching it, and Nunez just she seemed so much further ahead. Like, you got to give it to Felicia Spencer for holding in. I didn't think she was going to make it past that second round, to be honest. I was like, nah, she's done. And she got cut open so many times. Like, that woman is she's not a pretty woman right now. That's all I'm saying.
showed a lot of heart, and you definitely don't want too many fights like that. It takes away from your longevity in the sport for sure when you absorb that much damage. So
do you think there is a point where she can get up to that level of somebody like Amanda Nunez, like, or is it that's just too much of a jump really at this point?
no, she can get better technique wise, but Amanda Nunez is not only a great fighter, she's also like athletically gifted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you know what I'm saying, she's very explosive. She tends to have great cardio. It's not that she doesn't get tired, because she does, but she's only getting tired because she's exerting so much force and she's looking for the finish, and she's pursuing that the whole time. So although she's getting tired because she's being so active and constantly throwing strikes and pressing her opponent,
Mm-hmm.
get equally as tired because they're absorbing all that damage. So
Yeah.
it's only, but for how great she is and how active she is, I'd say she has great cardio. So she has many things going for her, which allow her to be the champion that she is.
Okay. So who do you want to talk about next? Garbrandt or Sterling? I want to go. Normally you go, you start from the bottom, you make your way up the card. I want to go the opposite way on this one because
I'm just gonna touch on these two quickly before we go into the main one there, which I'm assuming is the main one. But Cody Garbrandt,
I'm talking about
coming off, I believe three straight knockouts. I think 2 in a row to TJ Dillashaw, and then I believe he was also knocked out by Pedro Munez. I don't believe he had a win in between then, unless I'm mistaken. But he was back, and damn, Cody Garbrandt looking great. This guy, man, he looked fantastic on the weekend. Coming in against Rafael Sunsao, and Rafael Sunsao definitely not an easy fight, and to knock the guy out like that is an achievement for sure. So Cody Garbrandt did did great, looked great. I feel like he's back in the race to maintain and keep his spot. Yeah, very impressive. And then Aljamain Sterling, him and Sandhagen were they're fighting pretty much for contender spot for the title because with Henry Cejudo retired, the belt is now vacant. So on July 11th for the first fight on Fight Island, it's gonna be Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo. The winner of the fight will face Aljamain Sterling since he won on the past Saturday. And,
Yeah.
he did that in impressive fashion. I know he's technically sound. He doesn't make mistakes when he fights, and he's very good, man. Like submission-wise, that guy is nasty. I've seen him do some crazy stuff in there, man, and he's a very good fighter. But to do that first round, 90 seconds to tap out Corey Sandhagen in the fashion that he did, wow.
That's
very
impressive.
Big. Yep.
All right. So last but not least for this past weekend, my boy Sugar Sean O'Malley.
6'9" O'Malley.
Okay, this guy is too much for me. He's got 3 different color hair. Knockout king. Smokes more pot than anybody I've ever seen, except maybe the guy on the podcast here. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, just an absolute beast. So
yeah,
talk to me about Sugar Sean O'Malley.
So Sugar Sean O'Malley, I did like the new do. So anybody who is kind of on Instagram and into like hip hop and that scene is definitely going to understand the relevance of his hair. And he's even touched on that in an interview, and he has referred to the reason why he did his hair. And he did mention 6'9". So that is what influenced it. And Sean O'Malley, his girlfriend, actually is a hairstylist, so she did the coloring for him, and she took care of that, and it looks good. But the whole clown type of thing, but he played it off, and honestly, when you're a badass like that and you knock people out in that fashion, and you're as dangerous as Sean O'Malley is, man, you can do whatever you want. You could dye your hair any color you want, and ain't nobody saying nothing. But I like the way he rocked it, and what he said was like, not so much 6ix9ine as the person, but the character that he just made for the entertainment. He believes in entertainment value, and he came with the do. He had the corn. I wish it would have been in the fro. It even looked cool, like when it was all poofy and the colors blended that well. But the cornrows were dope too. But wow, what a performance from Sugar Sean O'Malley on Saturday at UFC 250. That was what he did that night was spectacular.
That was a quick KO. Like the thing about him is he knocked the guy out. He knocked Eddie Wineland out, and he just puts his arms down and walks away like nothing happened. Like that is the most OG gangster knockout I have ever seen. Other than maybe jumping off of the side, that was pretty crazy. But this is wild, man.
I think there's always been some kind of understanding that even in a street fight, to hit someone when they're down and out, is kind of I guess people would say dirty. But, someone like that, man, transfers in the ring. He just knocks him out. Doesn't even think twice. Just walks off like cold, and like they call Henry Cejudo Triple C. I don't know, man. Sugar Sean O'Malley, we're gonna call him Triple C. Cool, calm, collective. Just knocks him out, walks off like that. He may not have that gold medal. He may not have the 2 belts yet, but he's definitely Triple C too. And we're just gonna say that's you heard it here first. Sean O'Malley, Triple C, baby. Cool, calm, collective.
All right, so let's transition to next week. Well, I guess not next week. We are recording this on the Thursday. This can be released on the Friday. The next day after that is the Saturday, of course, and that's the fight night. So that's the main card's Jessica Ai and Cynthia Calvillo. let's talk about a couple of fights on this. You pick what you want to talk about. Actually, you know what? Screw it. For the betting people,
We'll start from
let's go through the card. Let's go through the main card.
the top to the bottom, I guess.
Okay.
Just
So yeah, this is Jessica Cynthia Calvillo.
actually, you know what? Because we're talking about a card that hasn't taken place yet, let's do it in order.
Okay.
Do it the right
Mark
way.
De La Rosa, Jordan Espinosa. Bars.
Hey, Ryman.
Hey,
Rosa.
back in the rap game.
De
Just
La Rosa. Got that Espinosa de la Rosa.
all right, talk to me.
What you smoking on, man? Smoking on Espinosa de la Rosa. And, Rosa again, man. How I was kind of saying about Man Nunez, this guy seems to be pretty athletic, pretty technical. Mark De La Rosa definitely a bit more active, bit more of a loose cannon, I'd say. Although he's very technical as well, he just seems to push the pace a little bit more, and he's definitely willing to quote unquote like fight, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Doesn't mind exchanging. So it's a good fight. If I had to pick one to win, I'm gonna go Mike De La Rosa. But,
Okay.
it's gonna be a great fight. Competitive. Bantamweight. It's a tough division right now. Both these guys would need like a pretty good win in like a convincing fashion to really make noise and like move up the rankings.
So you're looking at a potential leave your body a little bit vulnerable, go for that KO.
No, I could see a decision even. Like both these guys are pretty durable. Both of them like I don't see a knockout coming, but I see Mark De La Rosa winning. Jordan Espinosa is just he's a little bit conservative. He just likes I don't think he takes too many chances, which like plays in his favor a lot of times, because he doesn't make mistakes. But I think De La Rosa is just going to take advantage of that a little bit. But again, never know. Me personally, I think Mark De La Rosa is going to take this one. It's going to be a good fight. Again, they're in there with Aljamain Sterling and Peter Young and Doe and Sandhagen and all these guys. Cody Garbrandt. So that division is stacked right now. Usually people don't think the lighter weights are very interesting because they like the big guys. But I'm telling you, bantamweight right now is on fire.
Yeah.
Just
No, I couldn't believe it. With the build these guys have, how much they weigh blows my mind. They're like what, 135 or something like that?
bantamweight 135, yeah. So
135, and they're like jacked, just jacked.
yeah.
Mind blowing. All right, next fight. Andre, I don't want to butcher his name. Feely?
Yeah.
Okay, versus Charles Jourdain. Let's talk.
Charles Jourdain seems to have a better record. He's 10-2 at the moment, going up against Andre Feely.
Okay.
Andre Feely's fought some good guys, man, like Michael Johnson, whatnot. Although he has losses, he hasn't been beat very easily. Like he's fighting pretty high level guys. I'm gonna expect like an interesting fight, an exciting one. If I had to choose who's gonna win, I'm gonna have to say Andre Feely.
Okay.
His last loss was to Sadiq Youssef, who's just an absolute monster, man. Like that guy, he's probably gonna be champ. Like that guy be so. If you have to choose, I'd say Andre Feely. Definitely a safe bet to choose him to win. I wouldn't go for a knockout or anything. I just choose him to win. I'm not going too specific on any of these bets, but it's gonna be another good fight. They're in featherweight. Featherweight is kind of held up right now. Volkanovski beat Max Holloway. Pretty close fight. Max was dominant for so long. Now he's getting a automatic rematch. It's back-to-back fights with the same person. Kind of not stalls the division, but it obviously isn't moving as quick. So we'll see where Andre Feely sits if he can defeat Charles Jourdain.
Okay. And by the way, for all my Canadians listening, Jourdain's Canadian, so we can all cheer for that guy. Maybe not on the bets, but There's two different categories for that. All right. I'm definitely not saying this next guy's name. Davashvili?
Merhab. Gustavo Lopez.
All right. Let's talk about that.
Merhab, this guy is a beast, man. He was on Ultimate Fighter, so anyone who's watched that show before will be familiar with him and his fights from that show. He's been in the UFC not too long, but maybe like one of the latest Ultimate Fighter episodes. But he's 10-4, man. He's been looking very good in the UFC. He also trains with Aljamain Sterling, so he's got a great camp. Pretty sure he's with like Renzo Gracie and a lot of those guys in New York. Ray Longo, Matt Serra.
Mm-hmm.
Got a solid team out there, but I could see him doing very well in this fight.
Is he from Dagestan originally?
Merhab, I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. It says his origin's Georgia, but I don't know if that's Atlanta, Georgia, or if it's the country of Georgia.
Country of Georgia.
Country of Georgia? Okay. Okay. So you're going with Mirab, but you don't have a decision, win, knockout, sub.
I'm gonna go with decision, but Merhab is definitely gonna win.
Okay. Marvin Vettori versus Carl Roberson.
This is probably going to be the most interesting fight on the card. These guys have been scheduled to fight a few times already.
Okay.
There's been some problems with it. And, Marvin Vettori has been pretty upset with that. Israel Adesanya, Marvin Vettori were matched up last year, I think, the year before. Went 3 rounds, very competitive fight. And you could argue that Marvin Vettori won the decision.
Wow.
That was against Israel Adesanya, the champ.
It was like,
that's against the champ. And anyways, he's been looking for another fight since for a while now. He was supposed to fight Darren Stewart. That fight got canceled. And then he's supposed to fight Carl Robertson. That fight got canceled again. It was during coronavirus, I think. It was the first card back. So in Jacksonville. And with the delays and whatnot, fighters they're peaking, they're ready to fight. And then Carl Robertson had problem like making weight and a few different things. And then he was just saying some making comments about Marvin Vettori, and Vettori was just pretty upset about that and saying like, "Wait, I'm not serious." And he's just like, "You're not serious. You're not making weight." Etc. Etc. And Marvin Vettori is fired up. They almost got into an altercation in the hotel and fought right there, when Carl Robertson was unable to make it to that event. So they're rescheduled. They're fighting Saturday. This is a go. You can imagine the weigh-ins are going to be interesting. Like they'll probably get right in each other's face, and then the fight is going to be exciting right from them when the bell rings.
I've seen Carl fight a few times over the years now. That guy's a great fighter, man. He's always interesting. Like. I don't think I've seen a boring fight by him yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not a bad fighter at all.
He's always a sleeper pick, I feel like.
These guys are both a little bit under the radar, not quite as well known. They're both at a place in their career where they're young and they can start making like a run for the top 10 or top 15, things like that. And then once they get there, then they can start looking at things like a title. But just to get into that top 15 is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Top 10, like that's massive, Just to get there is very difficult in UFC, let alone
fighters try, but not a lot of fighters get there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the final fight of the night. Jessica I versus Cynthia Calvillo. What do you think of that? Do you think it's one of the so like I know a lot of women's fights generally don't end in knockouts, don't generally end up in subs even that much. It's a lot of decisions. Is this also going to go the same way?
This would probably be a decision. By the way, I have Marvin Vettori winning the fight, but
Yeah.
I got I don't know. It's probably gonna be a decision. I don't see. I think they're both like equal as far as skill level goes. 5-round fight, but I feel like they're both able to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Calvillo, a little bit more aggressive. I feel. I'd say they're both decent wrestlers and both like willing to exchange and grapple, which definitely is going to happen with these two.
Mm-hmm.
Striking a little bit, but most of it's going to be from like the clinch or on the ground. Jessica Ashe did fight, not her last fight, but the one before that. She fought Valentina Shevchenko for the title. She did suffer a knockout loss, which is unfortunate, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to go with Cynthia Calvillo on this one, and she just an up and comer. She was stalled a little bit. I think she had a problem with USADA because of cannabis use. Believe it or not,
Mm.
how silly USADA cannabis
Cannabis.
in a way their opportunity to earn a living and to further their career because of some cannabis. And then Sugar Sean O'Malley gets to smoke bongs and do crazy stuff.
I mean, Elias Theodoro has his own
Change.
cannabis brand.
Glad that times are changing, but come on, man. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah. So would you say Calvillo's like the favorite? I mean, I'm looking at her record here, and I mean, this is probably what the average fan would do looking at bets and stuff like that, is they would probably look at the record and say, okay, I'm gonna go with the person with the better record. Calvillo has a 8-1-1 record, and then I has a 15-7. Obviously, I's had more fights, but she's only a year older. Would you say Calvillo's proven at this point, or is she still not, doesn't have enough fights under her belt really?
She was a prospect, and she was like on the come up, but because she got stalled with USADA for a little bit, she wasn't able to fight. So obviously that takes away from some of the hype. But
Yeah.
I think she's focused. She's had a lot of time to improve, and because she doesn't have as many fights, should be easier to train. She'll be able to absorb more.
Mhm.
I think it's a little bit easier for her to learn at this stage.
Yeah.
Opposed
Yeah.
to just guy who's already been training for so long and had this many fights. I'm gonna have to go Cynthia for that one.
All right. All right. Cool. And yeah, probably decision, right? Probably decision.
Yeah, I can't see too many finishes. I could see Marvin Vettori or Carl Robertson getting a finish.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a crazy fight. Carl Robertson's gonna want to, prove to Marvin Vettori that he's serious and he ain't scared. Marvin Vettori's gonna want to make him pay for missing weight and this and that. But that's gonna be a great fight. I could easily see that as the main event.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I think that's pretty much that card. So just to burn through it really quick for everybody who does have their Bet365s out and ready, or any sort of non like an XP app like Verdict.
Yeah, we'll plug them in. Verdict MMA. You can
Verdict on our sponsorship money out here, all right?
Verdict. What's a free XP, man? Come on, man.
So we're gonna go. So you said Mark De La Rosa, right?
We got Mark De La Rosa for sure.
Andre Fili,
Andre Fili.
Mirab.
Yeah.
You said Marvin, right? Yeah, Vettori. Yeah, and then Calvillo.
Yeah, Cynthia.
Yeah, killer.
That's it, buddy.
Brother, I'm super psyched for your first episode of your podcast next week. Everybody, make sure you tune in. DJ, drop your socials real quick.
You just want to go to Weigh In MMA on Instagram. You can find everything there. I'm not going to send you on a goose hunt, goose chase. What's that saying? Goose hunt, goose chase?
Chasing a goose around the street or something. I don't know.
I'm not going to send you on a mission. Let's go to Weigh In MMA on Instagram and you can find everything there.
Perfect. You're the man. Appreciate you coming on the podcast, buddy.
Sure.
Yeah,
Man, bro. Thanks for having me, man.
we'll talk soon. Oh, and by the way, people, his studio might end up being my studio sooner rather than later. So just throwing it out there as a little hint.
We're in the
Cool.
studio here. That's it.
All right.
All right, man. Again, thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
All right,
Take
we'll
care.
see you soon. Cheers, bro.